Find out the truth about hell and what the Bible really says. Hey guys! Today we will dive into one of the most controversial and intriguing topics: hell. Is he real? What does the Bible reveal to us about this place? Get ready for a journey of knowledge and reflection. The idea of hell as a place of punishment and eternal torment has its roots in various religious traditions, but its origin in the Christian context goes back mainly to the sacred scriptures. In the Old Testament, the concept of Sheol, often translated as hell, was more associated with the region of the dead, without distinction between good and bad. Already in the New Testament, the notion of Gehenna, mentioned by Jesus in his teachings, was interpreted as a place of suffering for the wicked. These different perspectives contributed to the construction of the modern vision of hell as a place of eternal punishment for sinners. In medieval periods, for example, hell was often portrayed in works of art as a place of extreme physical torment, with demons torturing souls condemned in the midst of eternal flames. This intense visual representation contributed to the perpetuation of the image of hell as a place of unimaginable suffering. Already in the modern era, with the advancement of science and cultural changes, new approaches about hell emerged, questioning its literal nature and proposing more symbolic or metaphorical interpretations. This evolution in the understanding of hell reflects not only transformations in society and theology, but also the different ways people seek to understand the mystery of life after death. For centuries, the question of the existence of hell has been the subject of theological and philosophical debates. For many Bible scholars, the idea of hell as a place of eternal punishment raises complex questions about the nature of God and his righteousness. Some argue that a loving God could not condemn his creatures to eternal suffering, while others defend the need for a place of retribution to the wicked. Interpretations of biblical passages that mention hell vary widely, from a literal and physical vision of torment to a more symbolic and spiritual approach. Understanding the historical and cultural context of these texts is essential for an in-depth analysis of what the Bible really says about hell. In the Old Testament, we find descriptions of hell that are distinct from other ancient traditions. In texts, such as the Book of Job and the Psalms, Sheol is often described as a dark and silent region, where all the dead go, regardless of their conduct in life. This view of Sheol contrasts with the modern idea of hell as a place of active punishment and eternal torment. The ambiguity of Sheol's descriptions in the Old Testament raises questions about the evolution of the conception of hell throughout history and the influence of other cultures on the formation of these beliefs. In Christian tradition, hell is often seen as where the wicked are sent to receive retribution for their sins. Passages such as the parables of Jesus over the final judgment and the separation between the sheep and the goats highlight the importance of hell as an element of divine justice. The idea that each individual will be responsible for their actions and will face the consequences in the beyond tumulus is central to understanding hell as part of the divine plan of balance and morality. The reflection on the role of hell in Christian theology invites us to consider not only the consequences of sin, but also the redemptive nature of divine grace in the face of the reality of eternal punishment. The parables of Jesus are powerful narratives that transmit deep teachings through simple and affordable stories. When it comes to the theme of hell, some parables stand out for addressing the question of divine justice and the consequences of our acts. One of these parables is that of the rich and Lazarus, present in the Gospel of Luke. In this story, Jesus describes the situation of a rich man who lives a luxurious life, regardless of a beggar named Lazarus who lies at his door, full of wounds and hunger. After death, the beggar is taken by the angels to Abraham's bosom, while the rich man is tormented in Hades. The parable highlights the inversion of papers between the two characters after death, showing that life choices have eternal consequences. Through this narrative, Jesus invites us to reflect on the importance of compassion, generosity, and repentance, at the reality of divine judgment and rewards and punishments reserved beyond this life. The debate between annihilationists and traditionalists about the nature of hell is one of the most intriguing aspects of Christian theology. While traditionalists defend the classic view of hell as a place of eternal torment to the wicked, the annihilationists propose a different interpretation, according to which the condemned are destroyed or annihilated after a period of punishment. This divergence of opinions raises profound questions about the nature of divine justice and the meaning of eternal suffering. Defenders of both positions present arguments based on biblical passages, theological traditions, and moral conceptions, resulting in a complex and enriching dialogue about the final destiny of the soul in the context of hell. While the concept of a place of punishment after death is present in many beliefs, the specific characteristics of hell vary widely according to the culture and theology of each religion. For example, in Greek mythology, Hades was the kingdom of the dead, where souls crossed a river to reach the underworld. In Hinduism, Naraka's idea represents a place of suffering for sinners, with different levels of punishment according to acts committed in life. In Buddhism, Naraka's concept also exists as a painful state of existence resulting from bad deeds. These different visions about hell reflect not only the spiritual and moral beliefs of societies, but also offer insights on how each religious tradition addresses fundamental issues about life, death, and beyond. The idea of a place of eternal punishment can profoundly influence people's attitudes and behaviors, both in relation to their moral conduct and their spiritual beliefs. Belief in hell can serve as an incentive for the practice of good and the rejection of evil, motivating individuals to follow ethical and religious principles in search of a heavenly reward or to avoid divine punishment. However, this same belief can also lead to fear, guilt, and anxiety about the final judgment and the fate of the soul after death. The psychological and emotional impact of the conception of hell varies according to theological and cultural interpretations, and may influence the mental and spiritual well-being of people. Moreover, the idea of hell as a place of eternal punishment raises questions about divine justice, forgiveness, and mercy, challenging believers to reconcile the notion of a loving God with the reality of eternal suffering. Although hell is often associated with a place of eternal punishment and suffering, Christian theology also highlights the importance of divine mercy and the possibility of redemption. Biblical passages such as the parables of the prodigal son and the lost sheep emphasize God's unconditional love and his willingness to forgive the repentant sinners. These stories of reconciliation and forgiveness offer a message of hope to those who fear eternal punishment, remembering that divine grace is always available to those who seek truth, repentance, and spiritual transformation. Given the complexity of the theme of hell, it is essential to remember that the Christian faith is not only limited to the fear of punishment, but also to the trust in God's goodness and compassion, which desires salvation and the restoration of all souls. If you were curious to learn more about this fascinating topic, be sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos. The truth about hell can challenge us, but also lead us to reflect on our spirituality. Thanks for accompanying this far. Until the next video.